I opened my Bitcoin wallet and there was a transaction I did not send and did not expect. A small amount of Bitcoin from an address I did not recognize with no explanation. My first instinct was that something was wrong. My second instinct was that I had been hacked. Neither turned out to be correct, but working out what had actually happened took longer than it should have, because I had not encountered this before and did not know what I was looking at. I'm Sats, and this is what a mystery Bitcoin transaction actually is, and what to do if it happens to you. Let me tell you what I found when I looked into it, because the explanation is both more mundane and more interesting than I initially expected. The transaction was tiny, a fraction of a cent worth of Bitcoin. It had arrived in my wallet from an address I had never interacted with. There was no message attached, no explanation, no context. I checked the address on a block explorer. The same address had sent tiny amounts to thousands of other wallets around the same time. This was not a personal transaction directed specifically at me. It was a mass broadcast to a large number of addresses simultaneously. What I was looking at is called a dust attack. Dusting is a technique where a small amount of Bitcoin, often called dust because of how little it is worth, is sent to a large number of wallet addresses. The goal is not to give you money. The goal is to track you. Here is how it works. Bitcoin is pseudonymous, not anonymous. Every transaction is publicly visible on the blockchain. If you receive dust and then later spend it by combining it with other Bitcoin in a transaction, the analysis of that transaction can reveal that the wallet which received the dust is linked to the wallets it combined funds with. Over time, pattern analysis of multiple dust transactions can help someone map out which addresses belong to the same person or organization. This matters more to some people than others. If you care about the privacy of your Bitcoin transactions, dust is a tool used to reduce that privacy. If you are a casual holder who is not particularly concerned about transaction privacy, the dust itself cannot steal your Bitcoin or harm your wallet. It is more of a tracking mechanism than an attack on your funds. When I understood what it was, my response changed from concern to mild curiosity. The dust was in my wallet doing nothing. My Bitcoin had not been compromised. No one had gained access to anything. Someone had simply noted that my address existed and was active. Here is what to do if this happens to you. The most important thing is not to spend the dust. If you consolidate it with other Bitcoin when making a future transaction, you link the receiving addresses together and provide the analysis the sender was trying to enable. Most Bitcoin wallets allow you to view your unspent transaction outputs, sometimes abbreviated as UTXOs, and some wallets allow you to mark specific UTXOs as do not spend. If your wallet supports this, marking the dust as do not spend prevents it from being included in future transactions. If your wallet does not support coin control, the simpler approach is to ignore the dust. Do not deliberately include it in transactions. If the amount is genuinely dust level, a tiny fraction of a cent, it will likely never be included in a transaction automatically because the fee to move it would exceed its value anyway. The second thing to check is whether the amount is actually dust or whether it is something else. Sometimes unexpected Bitcoin transactions are not dust attacks. They might be a refund from a platform you used previously that is returning a small amount. They might be a test transaction from someone who is about to send you a larger payment and wanted to confirm the address first. They might be a mistake, where someone entered the wrong address and you received Bitcoin that was meant for someone else. How to tell the difference? Dust attacks are almost always extremely small amounts, fractions of a cent, and the sending address will typically show many other small transactions to many other addresses on the Block Explorer. A refund or a test transaction is usually slightly larger and comes from a single address with a more normal transaction history. If the amount is larger than dust and you genuinely cannot identify the source, it is worth checking whether you have any platforms or services that might owe you a refund, or whether someone you know sent it deliberately. There is one scenario worth being aware of where unexpected Bitcoin can create a problem. In some jurisdictions, receiving funds from unknown sources can have tax implications. If you receive Bitcoin you cannot explain, even in small amounts, it is worth noting the transaction and its value at the time of receipt in your records. In most cases, very small dust amounts will not be materially significant from a tax perspective, but keeping records is a good habit regardless. Here's what this experience reinforced for me about how Bitcoin actually works. The public nature of the blockchain is a feature and a trade-off simultaneously. Every transaction is permanently visible to anyone who wants to look. That transparency is what makes Bitcoin trustworthy. Anyone can verify any transaction without relying on a central authority. But the same transparency means that anyone who knows your address can see every transaction that address has ever made. Privacy on Bitcoin requires deliberate effort. Receiving unexpected dust is a reminder of that. Let's bring it together. An unexpected Bitcoin transaction in your wallet is most commonly dust. A tiny amount sent to many addresses simultaneously as a privacy analysis technique. It cannot steal your Bitcoin or compromise your wallet. It is a tracking mechanism. Do not spend the dust. If your wallet supports coin control, mark it as do not spend. If it does not, ignore it. It is too small to matter financially, and including it in transactions is what provides value to whoever sent it. If the unexpected amount is larger than dust, check for refunds from platforms you have used, test transactions, or messages from people you know. Bitcoin is pseudonymous, not anonymous. Every transaction is publicly visible. Privacy requires deliberate effort. If you want to understand how Bitcoin transactions work and why everything on the blockchain is publicly visible, the video on what actually happens when you send Bitcoin covers that in full. Watch that next. Stack smart, stay curious, see you in the next stack.